What is up, my friends? Myself and David Lynch are back to have a little chat around Liverpool's victory over Tottenham Hotspur at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was a crazy game. Fair to say that we probably won't see another one like it this season. David, there's so much I want to get through. But firstly, just want to ask you all set for Christmas?
Yeah, all good. Got all the shopping done. I'm not doing any of that last minute thing. I'm not. I'm too anxious to get myself into that sort of mess. So yeah, all sorted, all ready to go. And then the little man's really excited. So can't wait. Yeah.
Oh, we love that. We love that. So you know what? I can't. I've no sympathy for anybody who goes out on the high street right at the last minute to get things done. I have been steadily shopping on various online sources over the last couple of months to make sure everything's ready and delivered. But yeah, I'm like you, Dave. You wouldn't get me out there for God nor man.
No, not this late. Because I mean, my wife had to nip out actually to Tesco earlier to just get a last bit for some bread for some soup that we're having on Christmas Day, and she said it was absolute like hell out there, like a zombie film. So yeah, not getting involved in that at all. No chance.
Well, speaking of madness, I think we've segued right into the game yesterday. I mean, let's start actually with a look at the weekend, if I can, David. It was another weekend that will, I guess, inspire confidence for a title push. Everton taking points off Chelsea, Manchester City capitulating even further. United, it's always fun to watch United lose, especially 3-0 at home to Bournemouth. This is the new normal now, David. You keep telling us it isn't normal, mate, but this is the new normal.
This is it. I mean, you're just getting so used to kind of title rivals dropping points and then Liverpool win and capitalise on it. Or, even if Liverpool do drop points, which has happened last couple of weeks, they've had a couple of games where they've dropped points. Still, the title rivals haven't been able to capitalise on it. Manchester United seemingly lose every week, similar with Manchester City. So it's happy days. And, I say not normal because really just didn't think that Arne Slot would take to it this well. Had hopes he would be the right manager, but you tend to think it takes a couple of seasons to really hit the stride, and maybe he has to bring in a couple of his own players, but nothing of the sort really. He's just inherited very good squad, yes, but taking it up a level as well, and just absolute joy to watch that happen, and another good weekend in terms of that.
So yesterday, I mean, let's look at the first half for a second. I thought we played with a swagger and a confidence and a rhythm that we've only really seen glimpses of at times this season. It was lovely to see that from the off yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to, I say spoke to, I asked Arne Slot actually in the press conference ahead of this one, is he kind of a little bit concerned about some of the slow starts recently, but there was nothing like that really in this game. Was there? I thought from literally the first minute Liverpool were on it, so dominant in the game, and just taking Tottenham apart at will, not really looking threatened defensively, and just completely controlled it. And he's probably, I'd say the first hour or so, probably the best that Liverpool have played under Arne Slot so far. I mean, that City game's up there with it, maybe Real Madrid as well. But I think in terms of they were able to put the goals on in this one. That first hour, maybe the best yet we've seen. So yeah, really good performance. And I know there's a couple of downsides that come with the goals, but I still think overall, it basically Liverpool made it hard for themselves later on because it was so easy for them in the first hour or so, and that I think just shows the extent to which they controlled it and dominated Tottenham really.
It's one of those games where we waited a while for the first goal, but you knew it was coming. Like there was never any doubt that we were going to find that breakthrough. And I thought it was very interesting to hear Ryan Gravenberg say that they signalled out Dragusin and tried to make sure that he was funnel the ball because they thought maybe there was a mistake in it where they could press him.
Yeah, and it made sense really because obviously Archie Gray is not a centre half by trade, but in terms of actual comfort on the ball, no questions over him in terms of that. It made more sense to target his partner, and I think it seems to be something that was working. I mean, there's a couple of misplaced passes early on, and like I say, in terms of feeling like the goal was coming, I mean, I think Mo Salah, did he have 5 shots in the first 20 minutes? So
Yep.
obviously it was still 0-0 at that point, but you just knew that Liverpool were eventually going to kind of capitalise on that. And obviously it comes through that unbelievable ball from Trent Alexander-Arnold, still a really good finish from Diaz as well. And from that point on, really just wasn't in doubt at all that Liverpool were going to run out comfortable winners, I thought.
Well, you mentioned the great man, so let's start talking about Mohamed Salah. I feel like we could have a Mohamed Salah top trumps at this, and you and I could just keep going back and forth with cards of all his records, David, because it's getting ridiculous. So now, another couple yesterday, and I'm sure you probably have a few more that I don't know about, but first man in Premier League history to have 10 goals and 10 assists minimum before Christmas time. He's now fourth, the club's all-time goal-scoring chart, surpassing Billy Little after his second goal yesterday. I don't know what else to say anymore, David. It's getting ridiculous at this point. The man is just seemingly getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah, that's it. Genuinely running out of superlatives. He's just that good, isn't he? And I mean, we are talking now. I think by the end of this season, particularly if he gets a winners medal, which you would like to think he would do, sure, he starts getting into the conversation for me of best Premier League player of all time. I genuinely mean that, and that seems an outlandish thing to say, but I genuinely think that's the level he's getting close to. I mean, he's climbing that Premier League all-time top scorers list. He's climbing Liverpool's, and he's getting the assists as well. So he's top of the playmaker charts. He's that complete threat. He scores in all the big games. He scores in all the smaller games as well. He just scores in every game. And nobody can deal with him. I mean, at the very least, what we can say in terms of, okay, it might be difficult to place him in his historical context, but I think what we are watching on the evidence of the first few months this season is the best player in the world right now. And that's what Liverpool have got. And I suppose, more than anything, I mean, it's an absolute joy to watch him, but it just kind of underlines again how imperative it is to get him signed up to that new contract. But for me, he's the best player in the world at the moment, and pushing up that list of Premier League all-time players.
Well, I've thought about this long and hard, and I had a little look at an overview yesterday, and he has now got more goals and assists than Thierry Henry if you combine them both in the Premier League. So I'm sure Arsenal fans watching will admit that he's just a better player than Thierry Henry at this point in Premier League history. So yeah, where can he go? I mean, we're looking at the goal scoring charts, David, and Alan Shearer apart. You never know. If he signs a 2-year extension, you go up to those numbers. There's no reason he couldn't get to number 2 or 3. I mean, as I mentioned there, looking at these stats, I don't think anybody could deny game for game, almost identical. He's got more goals and assists than Henry. Yes, Henry may be the more flashy, media savvy player, and I get Arsenal fans need someone to look up to, but I just think Mohamed Salah's place in the all-time charts are growing, and I guess even putting him in the pantheon of our own club, again, moving up those charts. There's just nothing left to say about the man other than we hope he's here for a few more years.
Yeah, and I think with the Henry thing as well, I mean, there's that 20 goal, 20 assist season, isn't there, that sort of sticks in everybody's mind as kind of the outstanding achievement from Henry. And Salah's on 15 goals, 11 assists, and it's only December. There's quite a few more games for Liverpool to go. So, I mean, he could be closing in on that assist record, which would be absolutely incredible. And if he gets that, and he gets that winners medal, and that's the thing, that sometimes is probably the thing for me that maybe holds people back, certainly outside of Liverpool, from hailing him as an all-time great, in that he's only won one title. Obviously, it's not his fault that he could easily have had more, but maybe in people's minds that's just there as a little seed of doubt. But I think if he adds another title, then I just think there's just no argument. And I mean, if he can surpass Thierry Henry's assist record this season, then again, that conversation about those two, because for me, prior to this season, I think prior to the last couple of seasons, Thierry Henry has stood alone for me as the best Premier League player of all time. But it says a lot that I think Mo Salah is getting near to that. And as I say, if he adds a winner's medal, he gets close to that assist record. It's a conversation that I think needs to maybe be had, whether he can, whether he's on that level as well.
I think it's just an admittance that Arsenal fans need to have, David, to be honest. But there's another record, actually. I believe if he finishes the season with the most goals and the most assists, so the Golden Boot and the most assists, I think he's the first man to ever do that twice, if I'm not mistaken. I think Messi's done it once as well, and there's a chance Salah could be out on his own there.
But again, and that's the company we're talking about him keeping there. Lionel Messi, for me, is the greatest footballer of all time, and the only man to do that. And Salah, you hope and you touch wood, he doesn't get an injury that kind of stunts his progress this season. That's the only thing that really could stop him racking up these incredible numbers. But it's the only thing that could stop him, because quality level and the way he's playing at the moment, and he's in a team that platforms him as well perfectly to get the most out of him. He's set up to get some incredible numbers there, and if he does achieve that and matches Lionel Messi, then that tells you everything about how good he's been this season.
I guess one of the lovely things about yesterday is we've spent a few minutes now praising Mohamed Salah, but my list goes on, because there's some more players that I think need to be singled out here for praise. And Dominic Szoboszlai was another one I thought yesterday, David, that just covered every blade of grass. And you know what? I absolutely loved his goal because it starts with a ball from Trent, him winning the header, and then turning around, making a beeline for the penalty area. Obviously, Mo then whips a lovely ball back into him and he slides it under Forster. But it's just that determination from winning the header. It's almost old-fashioned centre-forward play. And it is coming from our advanced midfielder. I thought he was phenomenal yesterday. Maybe his best game in Liverpool shirt.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I said that in my post-match review that I felt it was his best game so far, and I think it's just that he showed everything, didn't he? I mean, that work rate's ridiculous. That he was great against Fulham in that aspect in terms of, he was the reason that Liverpool didn't look like they were down a man because he was just all over the place. But he did that at Tottenham to help Liverpool dominate in midfield, but he was also kind of always the extra man in attack and always the extra man in defence as well. And the goal, as you say, kind of summed it up because it's the ball's coming up, it's contested possession. Liverpool aren't in a great position, you think, but because he wins that and he flicks it on to Salah, all of a sudden they've got kind of a 4v2 and he's there to really coolly finish it off as well. So yeah, brilliant performance from him. I thought, it's kind of, maybe it's harsh on Salah that he gets 4 goal contributions, and I'm still thinking, was Szoboszlai man of the match? But again, that shows you just how well that Szoboszlai played. Really, he was everywhere and a big part of Liverpool dominating that game.
What really impressed me actually from Mo was it would have been very easy in that situation to just lay it out to the left. There was 2 runners on his left-hand side, could have slipped them in, but he made the right decision. And that is what makes Mo stand apart to me in those little moments, David. I know we're talking about Szoboszlai here, but that little reverse ball back into the path of Dom I thought was genius.
Yeah, exactly that, because Szoboszlai is then in a more central position and therefore it's a better quality of chance. I mean, credit to Szoboszlai as well, because the take and then the finish with his left foot is absolutely brilliant as well. I mean, it's just all round a great goal, and Liverpool scored a few of those yesterday.
So next on my list to single out for a bit of praise is Luis Diaz, who had another very good game yesterday. And I just think, like we spoke about the energy of Dominic Szoboszlai, Luis Diaz was absolutely everywhere. He was coming deep at times, drifting into the channels. He must be a nightmare for centre backs to figure out what to do with. Do I go with him? Do I let him have a bit of space and sit back? It worked. Whatever it was he was doing yesterday, it worked.
Yeah, it's that flexibility. I think defenders just finding it so hard to know what to do with him, because you saw there was a really good kind of incident that really underlined what he was doing in I think it was in the second half, where he threatens to go in behind and I think it's Dragusin backs off and then he just drops deep and he turns around and he's got acres in front of the back 4 and runners either side of him, and because he could do that and he's a dual threat, he can go either way. Defenders are just panicking constantly, and Spurs didn't have very good cover. And the beauty of it as well is I like that rotation with Gakpo, because he's always on the left-hand side, because when Luis Diaz plays in that centre-forward role, they work together because Gakpo doesn't mind being in central areas either. He's happy to do that. And so, Diaz can float out there, and it's just those constant rotations. And Salah's doing similar from the right-hand side. That's how you disorganise defences, and that's how you create opportunities. And because Liverpool is so good at that, they've got such a good attacking threat.
And then we move on to our manager, who said something after the game that just made me love him even more. He was speaking about how great we were, but I like the way he threw in the line to say we were great until we didn't think we had to run for the last 15 minutes, and then we got a bit sloppy. I love that he signalled that out. I do. I love that he called that out, because it is just a little reminder, yeah, we're capable of doing this, but look what happens when you stop doing this. You get a bit sloppy and you concede. I thought that was very smart of him to inject that into the post-match interviews.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd say about that is I don't think it's something that fans should be too worried about. I mean, it was quite clearly a case, wasn't it, that the players took the foot off the gas after 5-1 and he was finding it a bit too easy. And so Tottenham, they will always play in that way to try and attack you, and therefore they profited and got those 2 goals. But I think it's, it shouldn't be a massive concern for fans, because it's all about game state. But for the manager, like, as you say, he has to remind them, he has to tell them about what the standards are, and he doesn't want to, it's okay to do that at 5-1, but if you do it in a game where you're 3-1 or you're 2-0, the quality in the Premier League, that can get tides back into it and they can beat you, or they can come back and get a draw. So you don't want to see that, and Liverpool have got to be careful around that. So yeah, it just speaks to the kind of standards that Slot is setting, but we can already see that in the performances, can't we? Because they've been unbelievable so far.
I think it was written in the stars for Lucho to score yesterday after what happened previously. And I wonder, it certainly always stuck in my head, David, the lap of honour those Spurs players took after that game last year where they beat 9-man Liverpool and they were bringing their kids out into the pitch. And I'm sure that hurt those Liverpool players because thinking back to that game, the heroics performed that down to 9 men, and then for it to be a Jarell Matip own goal right at the end, so unfortunate. I felt like yesterday we went there and the boys wanted to just prove something.
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny because prior to the match, Sky had kind of run a little VT about that game, kind of a flashback to it, and I actually kind of forgot how much Spurs celebrated that win, and how much they sort of felt like they achieved something and done something big in beating 9-man Liverpool through an own goal in the 96th minute. I mean, the celebrations were off the charts, really. And I remember I tweeted after that game to say, you know, I think what we saw today was evidence that Liverpool will finish streets ahead of Tottenham and that they're in a different league. And I got a bit of pushback from it from some Spurs fans. Obviously, in the end, that proved to be the case because I think it was genuinely true at the time. It wasn't kind of sour grapes or anything like that. The fact that Tottenham needed Liverpool to be down to 9 men and could only score that goal in the last seconds, an own goal. I think it said a lot about the gulf between the two sides. And of course, because that result ultimately didn't prove it because of the own goal, because of the 2 red cards, because of the disallowed goal that was a goal, all those things coming together, you did feel that Liverpool went there yesterday and maybe felt, okay, we need to put one on these and show that there is this massive gulf. These are nowhere near us. And they absolutely did that, as I say. I mean, up to 5-1, it could have been even more, really, at that point. And yes, they do take the foot off the gas, but at no point, really, was this game a contest. Liverpool were in full control for most of it. So there is a gulf between the sides, and Liverpool finally got to show that, thanks to being no kind of, VAR mess-ups or anything like that.
What I will say is the other team in North London could learn a lot from Spurs fans because yesterday I'd just seen a lot of admittance from Spurs fans online in the Athletic comment section or anywhere else that Liverpool just by far the better side yesterday and were levels ahead. So fair play to Spurs fans on that one. Now, before we finish up with this game, David, I just want to know, of the 6 goals, what was your personal favourite yesterday?
I think maybe the Diaz one. I think getting the opening goal is always important in a game. The quality of the cross, the quality of the header. I mean, I do love that Szoboszlai one because of how well worked it was and kind of front to back. But yeah, I think the Luis Diaz one, because I watched it back this morning and kind of struck by, yes, it's a great ball, but it really does take some finishing from there with your head. And he does a really great job. And obviously that opens the game up completely then. So I think that's maybe my favourite. But so many good goals, well-worked goals. They played brilliantly yesterday.
Yeah, I mean Salah's first goal. I don't think he'd scored many easier than that one. To be honest with you, that was a welcome gift, I'm sure, from a Christmas time. So I want to move on to speak about some transfer gossip, if I can. And one particular name that I've seen a lot of over the past week or two is Rayan Cherki of Lyon. Now, there's a couple of things, I guess, here. A lot of the reporting is coming out of L'Equipe or Get French Football News and other outlets. But we also have to keep in mind, I guess, that Lyon are in financial difficulty over in Ligue 1 and face possible expulsion down to League Two. So I've no doubt that they're trying to stir up interest in players to free up some money. Is there anything that you're aware of to this Rayan Cherki link? Because it just keeps coming up over and over. And my biggest issue with it, David, is I just don't see that we need him.
Yeah, so it's one of those with this. So my understanding, I would never call this one nonsense because there's definitely Liverpool like the player, keeping tabs on him. There's a lot to like about his profile that they think would kind of fit in with Liverpool's style. So definitely a player that's being watched and is liked. But in terms of that turning into a transfer, as you say, I am extremely sceptical. I mean, I spoke to someone a couple of days ago about this, within Liverpool, and they kind of suggested, no chance for January. Beyond that, you'd have to see what happens in terms of if spots open up in attacking midfield or in attack. But right now, there's just no need for a player of that kind of profile. And I know people have been kind of trying to talk themselves into it by saying, oh, well, what if they think it's a really good opportunity that they can't miss? But they're not going to stockpile players. They don't want to have 7 frontline attackers. I mean, they signed Chiesa in the summer and we haven't seen him up until this point yet. They had they could have included him in the squad yesterday. He's fit and available, and yet they didn't, just in a pure selection decision. So the idea that you're going to sign Cherki, and even if it's a good opportunity, where are you going to give him his minutes to develop? They just aren't there, are they? And particularly if You sign Salah up for another couple of years. He just dominates that right wing, plays pretty much every game. You've got Luis Diaz and Gakpo on the left, great two options there. Nunez and Jota battling it out for that centre forward role, and then Chiesa in there somewhere as well. So Liverpool just don't have anywhere to give him minutes. And attacking midfield, similar actually with Harvey and Szoboszlai there. So he's a player that Liverpool like, but in terms of that turning into anything, I think a lot of that is kind of agent talk at the moment. I don't think that Liverpool's interest is real, but it's so far from that becoming anything at the moment.
Another area that I wanted to speak about was the left back situation, because I was reading something from Cara actually beforehand that almost made me fall off my chair. Speaking about Anthony Robinson of Fulham, I think he was maybe on air over in the United States, so he could have been playing to the crowd a bit here, but he spoke about the fact that he'd say he would be top of Liverpool's shopping list for left backs in January. And to me, I just think it's so far outside the profile of what Liverpool would normally do. 27, heading on for 28. I don't think many people would have too many complaints about the style of play or the quality of him. He's always stood out to me when I've watched us play against Fulham. I think he's done a very good job with Mohamed Salah as well. But I just don't see why we would look to replace Costas and Robbo with somebody who's going to be 28 on their next birthday. It just doesn't make sense to me at all for any type of profile that we've done with players we've brought into the club under Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, or anywhere else, David. It doesn't make sense to me. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I can't see him being a target at all, and just purely because of his age, because I think he is a quality player. I enjoy watching him. I think Fulham have got a few quality players, but he's definitely one of them. And he could make a decent buy for a side that needs a left back coming in the summer. Say maybe Manchester United with the problems they have. They can't be thinking about, is he short term, long term? They probably just need someone who's good, so it might be a good option for them. But for Liverpool, the huge question for them around left back now is find your next Andy Robertson. Find someone who's 22, 23, coming up to their peak, who you can develop into the best left back in the world, and lock down that position for the next 7 years in the way that Robertson has done for Liverpool. That is the task for them this summer. So I can't see them going anywhere near Anthony Robinson. I expect they will sign a left back, but I think it'll be someone who's much younger.
So I've got to mention this name, even though saying it, I know the answer is going to be no, and I know why as well, and I agree with it, but I have to ask about Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, just wages for me just makes that kind of unrealistic, and I think he's very good, by the way. And but I also think that Liverpool could quite easily find a left back who isn't on 300 grand a week and is very, very good, and is it's not like they'll be settling for less. I mean, they bought Robertson for £8 million from Hull and paid him 100 grand a week or whatever, and he, for me, has been. I know he's had struggles this last season or so, and maybe we are hitting the tail end of his best now, absolutely. But for 5 or 6 years, Andy Robertson was up there as one of the best left backs in Europe, and you didn't have to pay him 300 grand a week. You didn't have to give him a huge signing on fee. You didn't have to pay a big transfer fee for him. So I'm pretty convinced that Liverpool will be able to look at the left back market and think, okay, Alphonso Davies might be really, really good for us, but we could probably just do this for less money and pile that money into Mo Salah's contract or Trent's contract or Van Dijk's contract or another player that we're going to sign in the summer. It just wouldn't make sense to me, really, profile-wise.
I agree. And Liverpool don't usually like to get involved in bidding wars. And I know in this sense the bidding war would be around his wages, but it's just not something we do. We like to kind of go in under the radar, I feel, when we're looking for someone. Kirkes is another name, obviously, that's doing the rounds. Have you had any encouragement around him for, let's say, January? Because I know we're all open to something in the summer, but do you expect that? Actually, let's just cut to that. Do you expect anything in January in the left-back situation?
Yeah, not to be honest, I don't expect left-back to be addressed in January. I just think Liverpool can get through. I really am convinced of that fact, and I think they will feel the same. I think we will see the best of Robertson now. I mean, I thought he was pretty decent yesterday, by the way. People talk about we go into every game as if Robertson's going to be an absolute disaster. I just don't agree around that at all, to be honest. And I think, him rotating with Tsimikas, I think we'll see the best of the two of them across the remainder of the season. So kind of happy with that. And then address left back in the summer. And I think Kirkes will at least be on the radar for that. And, it's my understanding he's a player they like. But again, whether that steps up to being something more, whether Bournemouth start saying they want 50 million for him or something ridiculous, and Liverpool think they can get a similar profile elsewhere, we'll have to see on that. But there's no doubt they're looking at him and like him, because profile-wise, he ticks a lot of the boxes, doing very well in the Premier League, and he's young and he's got that experience in a few leagues as well. So they'll have a lot of data on him, no doubt about it.
I thought it was very interesting. I was watching an interview with Zubamendi, and I thought it was very interesting that he mentioned about it being an easy decision. I'm kind of paraphrasing here because it was a longer segment, but basically said it was an easy and selfish decision for him to stay in Sociedad. And I wonder, was he playing to the crowd there? Because if I'm trying to say who I believe on this one, I'm definitely siding with yourself, Richard Hughes, and they thought they had a deal there only for a last minute jitter and maybe a bit of guilt tripping on the other side. But I thought it was weird for him to come out and say it was an easy decision.
Yeah, I guess this is just a case of, got to keep the Real Sociedad fans on side and saying the right things as far as they're concerned. And, he's fully entitled to do that, isn't he? I mean, I saw it was quite interesting with some quotes from their sporting director, actually, that came out today, saying that they don't expect any scares in January. They think he's going to at least stay till the end of the season. So maybe that's one we can put on the back burner in terms of Liverpool's interest. But again, the huge question around him is, it looks likely now, doesn't it, that he's going to want to go at the end of the season. And so will Liverpool wait around for him? Will he, say that he's still the one they want? And will that patience be rewarded as it was with Virgil van Dijk? Or will they be sourcing some alternatives who they might like and might be able to even get in January? That's the interesting story for me around what they do in midfield, and we just keep an eye on it as January approaches.
For me, and for what it's worth, I just think whomever it might be and whoever Aaron is happy with, I think we need to get it done in January if possible, because I don't want to roll that dice on a Gravenberch injury or something like that, maybe destabilising the season. But we'll find out, I guess, over the next month or so. Fabrizio Romano mentioned that Liverpool are still keeping tabs on Ederson of Atalanta. Again, under Jurgen, I could have made an argument, and I certainly loved the profile of the player myself. But any truth to this one that you're aware of, him being still looked at?
Just nobody at Liverpool has ever suggested to me that they are even that. Maybe he's a player they're kind of watching, keeping an eye on, but nothing even close to concrete. It just got knocked down so repeatedly. And the fact is, look, if Liverpool had ever wanted that player, they could so easily have done that last summer. He was available for a decent price. It wouldn't have been a problem on wages, anything like that. They would have just done it by now. So I think that's very much agent talk, really, on Ederson's side. I don't think Liverpool think he is, the right fit for what they need. And he is a different profile, isn't he, to like a Zubamendi. And I think if they do add a midfield, I think it's going to be someone who kind of matches up to that.
And lastly, just a little bit on Caoimhín Kelleher, if I may. There's been some talk, Leeds were mentioned as a club that may come in for him. But I guess the only worrying part about that for me was a couple of these mentions have been for January. Now, surely there's no way Liverpool entertain, especially with Alisson already having had an injury this season, a potential sale in January. And if I'm Caoimhín Kelleher as well, being totally selfish about this, I'd want to know that Leeds are coming up to the Prem guaranteed before I'd maybe look at that move. But I do say if they come up, David, I mean it's a sleeping giant of a club there, and I wouldn't think it would be a bad move for him. But have you heard anything around Kelleher or his future?
Yeah, it's an interesting one Leeds are mentioning because their keeper is terrible. I think I've never seen him have a good game, I don't think. So they definitely do need a goalkeeper, and Kelleher would be a great option for them. But I think for him, look, at this point in the season, he's got FA Cup games coming up. He's got a chance to win the League Cup again, and he will definitely feature in those games. So why move mid-season when your only option there is to drop down to the Championship with Leeds? I think he will have better options than that, to be honest. And so he's probably better hanging in there. And I don't think Liverpool will be overly keen to sanction a sale in January either. So that's one I think just put that on the back burner till the summer. Have a look at what's out there. And I'm pretty sure then he'll get his move. But I can't see that happening in January. Certainly not to Leeds, at least.
Well, David, that brings us to an end of today's video. Just want to say Merry Christmas to you and your family, and thank you for all the videos we've done together so far this season. Have you anything coming up this week work-wise before you take a little break for Christmas?
Yeah, so we've got a piece up on the Substack today if people want to check it out, kind of taking a bit of a deeper dive into Liverpool's defending over the last 3 games and whether that's a worry or not. I think not, but maybe have a read and see how you feel about that one if people want to check that out. And also just want to say, Merry Christmas to you as well and your family, and thank you so much for having me on the channel. Really appreciating all the people who kind of engage with this and come and head over to my channel and make such nice comments. Like, it's such a nice experience. So I really, really appreciate that. So Merry Christmas to everyone, to you, to everyone involved with the channel and everyone who comments. Just massively appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And look, to you guys at home watching, listening, thank you as well. We all hope you have a Merry Christmas, and we'll be back after the Leicester City game where hopefully Liverpool have picked up another 3 points. Take care, my friends. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.